Hello, everyone. As you have just heard, my name is MARCHEWKA, and I'm from Nokia. And today I would like to tell you a few things about hallway testing, a great way to enhance the usability and the user interface of your product. Following the rules of a good public speaking, here's an agenda. So I would like to begin with some definition of what actually hallway testing is. Then spend a few minutes on the cognitive diversity aspects and what it has to do with the usability testing in general. Then, based on real-life use cases, real-life examples, I would like to walk you through a couple of real hallway testing, and based on that, explain you how hallway testing works. Then go through some practicalities, so who we should involve in hallway testing, how it should be conducted, what can be tested using hallway testing, when we can apply hallway testing in a testing cycle, followed by a couple of red flags, the things that you should never do when you are performing hallway testing, and all in all, why? Why do we want to include hallway testing when testing our product, and what kind of benefits it brings? So let's start. Definition. So, as I've mentioned at the beginning, I work for Nokia. So when I start talking about hallway testing, there's like, okay, so do you test your base stations in the hallways of your office? Is it even safe? And then I need to explain to everyone, no, hallway testing has nothing to do with over-the-air testing, with a testing of UEs, with testing of base stations. It has everything to do with usability testing. So, all in all, the definition, hallway testing is basically taking a random person in the corridor of your office, sitting him or her in the front of your app, of your PC app, mobile app, web page, whatever you want to test, and asking him or her to perform a very basic tasks. So, for example, if you are testing, let's say, a shopping cart, then you just ask the person to put some stuff in the shopping cart and see if it works. Hallway testing is also a member of a big, happy family of usability testing methods. That includes remote usability testing, A/B testing, experts review, automated experts review, so many, many flavors of usability testing that are a little bit different and bring other benefits. So why would I choose hallway testing, and why would I decide to tell you about this kind of usability testing? Well, let's find out. So before I'll go to let's find out, let me start with a story, because stories is the thing that people always remember from a presentation. So the story goes like that. Some time ago, my husband and I decided to go on a trip. For some reason, we decided to take a train. You know, how do you book tickets for a train? You just log into a web app, select the train, and order tickets online, right? Simple task. So this very important task for the trip was given to my husband. So he opened his laptop, he logged in to the web page of a railway company, and he tried to order tickets online. And guess what? He failed. He couldn't order the tickets he wanted. So he called me, hey, come here, you're a tester, you're going to help me, right? So I looked at the screen of his laptop, and I said, okay, but why are you trying to order tickets for a train that's fully booked? There's no more tickets for this. And he was like, how do you know? So how did I know? Let me explain. So for some reason, a person who designed the web page for the railway company decided to go with the color coding to tell the audience if the tickets, if there are still tickets for the particular train ride. So they used that kind of color coding to tell the users there's plenty of tickets, you can order freely. That kind of a color coding, there are still some tickets, but if you want to go via this train, better hurry up. And that kind of a color coding to tell the user there's no more tickets for this particular train ride, so you need to pick a different one. Can you see a difference? Can you see a difference in this color coding? If you see a difference, please raise your hand. OK? You see the difference. I can see the difference. My husband did not see a difference. Why is that? Well, he's colorblind. For him, everything on this page looked like that. So he could not tell that for this particular train ride, there were no more tickets. So you can see, this is a perfect example of accidental, involuntary hallway testing that was performed on a web application of a railway company. We, of course, wrote an email to that railway company and tell them that, hey, there's something wrong with your user interface. You might reconsider putting some different colors or maybe some text. And guess what happened? No answer. So if you want to check it yourself, you can go to a Polish railway provider webpage, Intercity PL, and check. The color code is exactly the same. So there was a specific case, right? My husband is colorblind. But if we take into account other web apps, other pages, other things, can we just assume that if you just run your app through one person, a single person, will you find all the usability flaws of your product? Of course, the answer is no. But why is that? There is something cool that's called cognitive diversity. Cognitive diversity has nothing to do with gender, race, or age. It has everything to do with our life experiences. I think that there was a presentation yesterday on that, when there was cognitive diversity was a little bit discussed. So each and every one of you here in this room, each and every one of you, have a little bit different experiences. You have been through different things in your life. And this is why you will be using the app, web page, or whatever in a little bit different way. And that is why you can discover a little bit different usability flaws than anyone else. So due to this cognitive diversity, we cannot perform usability testing or hallway testing using just one person. So how does it work in practice? I walked you through a very simple example of a hallway testing that was kind of involuntary. But let me show you right now an example that was really voluntary. So again, a story. There was a group of developers who decided to create a data integration platform. For those that don't know what data integration platform is, it's a kind of a software that takes the data, grabs it, does stuff with it, and puts it into an output that's consumable by other applications or a third party. So they wrote this software, they use it a lot within their company, and they were very happy with it. But for some reason, other developers from the same company, for some reason, they didn't like it. For some reason, they said, it's not useful for us, we don't want to use it. So the group of the developers that was using it, that was very happy with it, decided, let's try to find out why. So they decided to use hallway testing because it's really cheap and fast. So basically, they took a random developer on the corridors of their office that knew how to use data integration platform software, but was not familiar with this particular data integration platform that was written in the company. So they took him, they sat him in front of a laptop, and here's what happened. They have given him a very easy task to do. Read something from a database to XML file, given some XML schema definition. This is a little bit simplified view because it took a while to go into this, this state. So on the top, okay, I don't know if I can. No, I cannot. So on the top, you can see a database reader, so basically reading data from my application. And on the bottom, there's an XML output file. All you need to do to be successful here is to take this one of the blocks map in place here and put it on your screen. OK, so the tester said, OK, this is pretty simple. Let me try that. So he tried a double click. And it did not work. So he thought for a while and said, OK, maybe if I'll try to use context menu, right-click and see if there is something there. no context menu. So he got stuck. He couldn't move forward. He didn't know how to put this block map in place on the screen. And guess what worked? Simple drag and drop. So what happened here, right? The one group of developers was using it for a long, long time, and the newly fresh comer, he couldn't use it at all. Well, different developers are used to different IDEs, integrated development environments, right? So the people that created the software were used to Microsoft Visual Studio, and the tester was used to Eclipse. So for him, this was unusable. He couldn't move forward. And this is not complicated. This is a very simple usability flaw. So we got through a web page and a PC app. But can we go deeper? So does it need to have a user interface to be tested and to benefit from the hallway testing? The answer is it does not have to have a GUI. A good example here is API prototyping. So if you are creating an API, application programming interface, for you, it might be pretty easy to create it that way. So you are creating a function do this, now function do this next, function do this in case, function do this last, blah, 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 blah. And for you, it's pretty straightforward. You like it that way. For you, it's easy to write, easy to use, easy to implement. Everything's cool. But if you decide to go with a hallway testing, and you'll take a random developer from your company to sit and take a look at this API, for him, it might be easier to use it if it looks like that. So you just ask via hallway testing for a simple feedback. And if you implement it, more people will like to use your API, and you will find a basic usability flaws of your API. I have gone through a few examples. Now it's time for practicalities. So let's start with who we should involve in a hallway testing. So it's maybe not as simple as I said at the beginning, random person from a corridor. Of course, if you are testing an app that will be used by anyone, yeah, then you can go like that. But if not, then it's better to take care of a target audience. So you look at your app and you think, who will be using my app? And then try to pick a person that is similar to the target audience. So for example, if you're creating an app that will be used by students, you know, for sure you have some working students in your company, so try to grab that kind of person. So target audience and a small group. You don't need to go big if you are going with hallway testing. Small group is enough to uncover major usability flaws of your product. There is even a scientific proof behind that. There was a mathematical study conducted by Jakob Nielsen. He claims that just 5 users are able to find 85% of a major usability flaws. With one caveat, if you are creating an app that's used by highly distinct groups of users, of end users, then you should probably pick 5 people from each of these groups. Like, for example, if you are creating an app for those mentioned students, but at the same time professors will be using it, right? Then probably each of those groups will use it from a different perspective and from a different angle, and probably will be using different functionality. So it's good to do that. So 5. He also mentioned that 15 should find 100%, but that's under discussion. I think that you can never find 100% of bugs in your code. What can be tested? We talked about it a little bit, right? Mobile app, PC app, web page, API. That's for IT. If you go to food industry, you can do hallway testing of a new beverage or a new kind of food, right? Anything that in any way interacts with the end user can benefit from hallway testing. When? We are all, almost all testers here, right? If you are not a tester, please raise your hand. Okay, a few, but I assume you are developers, so you are also familiar with the golden rule of a testing. Start as early as possible, left shift, and all that stuff. So for hallway testing, this applies too. Start as early as possible, even when your prototype is ready. So if you have a web page design that's just on a piece of paper, do a hallway testing on it. You'll find a crappy design, you'll find bad color coding, you find whatever. And the earlier you find basic usability flaws, the earlier you can fix them, and the cheaper it is, right? Because if you find them later in the production stage, you'll have a hard time to fix them. How? First, plan in advance. You need to select your target audience. You need to secure a room for that. So do a little bit planning. Not too much, but plan in advance. Reserve time. You might get a useful feedback in 5 minutes, but half an hour is always better. You'll be able to give the tester a few more scenarios to test. Note down the results carefully. This is crucial. This is what it is all about. You'll get a great feedback from a tester, so don't miss it. Note it down. You can do it on a piece of paper, you can do it on a notepad, you can use fancy tooling like eyeball tracking devices to see where the tester was looking. Note it down. That's the most valuable outcome of a hallway testing. Analyze. You need to find out, okay, so the tester said, this is unclear, so what do I do to fix it? Analyze. Best with other people that were not part of a hallway testing. And then repeat. One of the biggest advantages of hallway testing is that it's cheap and fairly short. So you can repeat it as many times as you want. Start, do hallway testing, find bugs, correct bugs, do another round, correct new bugs, etc., etc. Repeat. Repetition is the key here. There are a few things that you should never do when trying hallway testing. First, don't invent overcomplicated scenarios that probably end user will never do. Just try a simple task that will be most commonly used in your app. And the second thing that is also important, never ever guide a tester through the process, so don't help him. This is hard, I know, because every time I did a hallway testing, I was like trying to, okay, just click here, just go there. Don't do that, because if you do that, you lose the most valuable part, unbiased feedback from a tester. You will not see where he's stuck. You will not see what he thinks is bad. He'll just follow your guidance and you'll find nothing. So just be quiet and watch. So all in all, hallway testing is not perfect because all in all, you are not always testing with real end users. There are people from your office. They can be your husband, they can be your neighbor, but sometimes they are not exactly in a target audience. And they are not experts, so they will tell you there is something wrong with your app, like a color coding is bad, like the design is not efficient, but they will not tell you how to fix it. They are not designers. They will not tell you, okay, if you change this to magenta, that will look better. They will tell you what's wrong, but you need to fix it yourself. But even though it's not perfect, we still want to use it. Why? Because it's simple. You just need your app and a person. That's it. You don't need any fancy equipment. It's cheap. Again, if you use your friends, it costs you a beer maybe, or a coffee, or a lunch if the friend is expensive, right? You don't need anything. Piece of paper, your app, a person. And it's fast. You're getting the feedback almost immediately. The minute you have given the task to the tester, you see the feedback at the same time. So real-time feedback. It's priceless. So simple, cheap, fast, using a cognitive diversity to enhance the usability of a product. That is what hallway testing is. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva. Let's have a look on the questions. Who should define hallway testing personas? QA or business?
QA. So you should get input from everyone because the business will probably know who your end users are, right? Who will be using the product in the end. But at the same time, QA will know who is in the office and who can really try to use the product, who can we involve. Okay.
Okay, let's move to the next one. Do you test documentation this way somehow?
So you need to document it, but it's very hard if you are getting a real-time feedback from a tester. Usually what I do, and I'm not saying this is perfect way, is I just note down, okay, so scenario this, okay, he went to these steps, and on this step, he got stuck. On this step, he said, this is not good, I don't want to click here. And then this is like writing down the steps and the feedback immediately during the session. For the, let's say, purposes of maintenance and coming back to the results, you can just save it wherever you want to keep it. But I don't have a specific way to document it, just noting down what happened.
How do you motivate real end users to participate in testing?
It depends, right? There's always a security problem if you are testing an app that shouldn't be revealed to outside world. Then you need only to use the people in the office. So then usually they are friends, so you ask them for a favor. But if you want to do a testing of a mobile app, and this is this is very common, mobile app or a web application. Then it's good to offer a coffee. Usually people go for that. You just, you're in a, let's say, Starbucks or somewhere, and you just say, okay, hey, I'm conducting this hallway testing. This is this new cool app. Maybe you'll sit next to me and answer a few questions, and I'll buy you a coffee.
What is the difference between hallway usability testing and simple use case testing?
The main difference is the people who are doing it, because usually for hallway testing, you do not engage the people who are part of a project. You don't, let's say, engage the real testers. You engage someone from outside. They can be testers, but from outside of your project. Better yet, if they are not testers, if they are, for example, developers from other part of a company, or if they are whoever. But for the simple use case testing, you usually use a real tester that's in your project, and he knows what the project does. He was maybe part of writing requirements, etc., etc. So we need someone that's unbiased for usability flaws.
What do you do if the tester gets stuck and asks you a question?
So I try to tell him, okay, think a little bit differently. But if he's really, really 100% stuck and cannot move forward, and this is, taking a long time, then I'll note down exactly where he got stuck, because this is like a very important major usability flaw, usability defect. And then I'll tell him, okay, if you click there, you'll go next. Then I'll help him, but I really, really try not to do that.
Did you encounter anyone who refused doing hallway testing? As in, you might have reached out and got a no?
Yeah, so sometimes people say, okay, I don't have time. And, unfortunately, that's something you need to accept. The whole concept of a hallway testing it is done for free, and it's cheap, and it's fast and simple. If you need to pay people for that, and if they are qualified testers, this is not hallway testing anymore. But yeah, people can refuse, and you need to somehow live with that and try to attack another person.